Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be taking a look at the latest lossless scaling frame generation plugin for SteamOS gaming mode on the Steam Deck, available now. This plugin allows us to increase the frame rate of any game in our library in real time, where we can just simply install, set our game's launch command, and run the game where we can change between 2, 3 and 4 times FPS on the fly without needing to restart. And I'll be guiding us step by step on how to install this and going over my recommended settings as well as a few tips for getting the most out of the Decky lossless scaling plugin on your Steam Deck. As always, a big thank you to PancakeTAS for creating the original lossless scaling Linux compatibility layer, and to Kurt Heimborch, aka Jason Derulo, for developing the Decky plugin and incorporating my feedback during testing. You can find links to both of their GitHubs in the description. So before we get started, if you enjoy the content I create, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, share this video with others, and let's get started. The very first thing we need to do is purchase and download lossless scaling from Steam to our internal drive in order for this to work, as the plugin requires files from this official program in order to function correctly. Make sure not to install to your microSD card and to your internal drive instead. Once lossless scaling is downloaded on the Steam Deck, we want to just make sure that our version of SteamOS is up to date to the latest stable channel release by pressing the Steam button, going down to Settings, System, and choosing Check for Updates. If you're on the beta or preview channels, it is recommended to come off those and get back on the stable channel. Once we're all updated, we want to press the Steam button again, go down to Power, and switch to desktop mode. In desktop mode, we want to open our web browser and type decky.xyz by pressing the X button to open our Steam keyboard, and we want to choose Download in the top right hand corner and save the Decky installer to our Downloads folder. But before installing, we need to go to System Settings from our taskbar, scroll down to Users, and choose Change Password, where pressing X on our Steam Deck we can bring up our Steam keyboard and type for convenience Deck twice. Press OK on the prompt that appears and choose Leave Unchanged. Afterwards, let's go to our Downloads folder, double click on the file for Decky Loader and choose Execute, where we will be prompted for our password that we just set. So press X again, and we want to stay with the release version for stable and press OK, and shortly after the install will finish and we can go ahead and press OK. After this, we want to return to our web browser and access the Decky lossless scaling GitHub page for the latest releases, and we want to always choose the latest available version at the top. And we want to scroll down to losslessscaling.zip for this version and download this to our downloads folder. Afterwards, we can go ahead, close the window and return to gaming mode. Back in gaming mode, we want to press the right quick access menu button and go down to our new plug icon that has appeared for Decky Loader. And we want to access the cog symbol in the top right corner for the settings menu. And on the first general tab, we want to scroll down and enable developer mode, where afterwards we're going to access the developer tab and choose Browse on Install Plugin from Zip File. From here, we want to navigate to our Downloads folder, choose losslessscaling.zip, press Install, and we'll see lossless scaling appear in the Decky sidebar. Access the plugin, and we want to choose Install lsfg VK, where we'll get a successfully installed message appear. So before we begin with running our games, let's go over the choices we have available to us in the plugin. Our FPS multiplier allows us to change the FPS of our games by 2, 3 or 4 times in real time during gameplay. Our flow scale meter allows us to increase or decrease the resolution of our game's internal image used for motion estimation. By default, this is set to 80%. Performance mode switches our frame generation model to a much lighter version, which improves performance significantly on the Steam Deck and is enabled by default to ensure the best experience. HDR mode is a toggle for games that support HDR, and it is not recommended to activate this for games that do not support HDR. Under experimental features, we have the option to set a Vulkan presentation mode for better performance or compatibility. The options we have available are VSync, first in, first out, and Mailbox. By default, VSync is set for us by default, and Mailbox can be set in-game if we wish to exceed the FPS cap set by our refresh rate. Next is the option to set a base FPS cap for DirectX games only prior to these games being launched, so we need to set this before we launch the game for this to take effect. Next we have Enable WoW64, which stands for Windows on Windows 64, which we can toggle on in combination with using GE Proton to allow lossless scaling frame generation to work on older 32-bit games. I have a guide in the description for installing GE Proton if you would like to learn how to achieve this. And disable Steam Deck mode activates Steam Deck equals 0, which is a launch command for unlocking hidden graphics settings in games such as Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and many more that have been optimized for the Steam Deck and had their graphics menus locked down. Now if we scroll down the list, we have the option to read through PancakeTAS's lsfg VK GitHub wiki for further reading, and to learn more. After this, we have an option for our launch option clipboard, which allows us to copy the launch command required for the plugin to work in each of our games. We have an update plugin option, and also the Nerd Stuff button available for checking various details such as our lossless scaling DLL path, hash of lsfg VK, detection source, launch script, and configuration file. So now the tour is out the way, we want to come over to our game of choice and choose the cog symbol here for our game settings, go down to properties, and we can manually enter our launch command, or we can press the quick access menu button, go to our lossless scaling Decky plugin, scroll down to the bottom and access the launch option clipboard, where we can simply copy the command, press B to return to our game's properties, and tapping inside the field to bring up our Steam keyboard and pasting the command like so, where we can press B to return to our game and press play. So now we're in game, I want to go over the settings that I'm recommending for us to use with the lossless scaling frame generation plugin. We can see that I'm currently getting around 50 to 60 FPS on low settings in this area with Elden Ring Night Rain. But when we press the quick access menu button and go to our performance tab, for big AAA or demanding games, it is recommended to enable disable frame limit like so, and then go down and enable manual GPU clock 1600 MHz before accessing the plugin. Once both of these options are set, we want to be mindful that they are active. Afterwards, let's go down and access our lossless scaling Decky plugin, where we can change our FPS multiplier in real time to 2 times and see that our FPS has almost doubled. And again, we can do this for 3 times, and again for 4 times. However, we need to change our Vulkan present mode from FIFO VSync to Mailbox to exceed the refresh rate and 4 times to take effect. So if I switch back to FIFO VSync, we'll lock to the refresh rate, and really in this situation we only need to go to around 3 times to hit the 90 FPS mark comfortably. So if we go back down to Vulkan present mode, let's take a moment to explain both of these. VSync locks our FPS to our screen's refresh rate, so on the Steam Deck LCD our refresh rate is 60 Hz and frames will be displayed 60 times a second, whereas on the Steam Deck OLED our refresh rate is 90 Hz and frames will be displayed 90 times a second. Even with frame generation applied, our FPS won't go higher than the refresh rate. This can provide a clean, tear-free image output, but can feel slightly less responsive. Mailbox allows the Steam Deck's GPU to render as fast as it wants to, but only the latest frame is shown with each refresh, so when enabled, our FPS is uncapped so that frame generation can run freely and exceed the FPS limit set by our refresh rate, but our screen will still refresh at either 60 or 90 Hz depending on our model. This can be smoother and again with no tearing. So before we wrap up the video, here are a few things we need to note. Unlike the Decky FrameGen plugin, which modifies our game files to enable DLSS with FSR frame generation, the Lossless Scaling plugin doesn't touch our game files at all, and works with a wide range of games and supports all DirectX versions. No DLSS or DirectX 12 is required. We can just run our games as normal with the plugin installed. If a game isn't working, please try using the latest GE Proton version, and I've linked a guide in the description to help with this. When testing games with the plugin, please drop a comment with the game name, your experience, and the settings used. You can also join the Lossless Scaling Decky plugin Discord, linked in the description, to share your results, feedback, and get support from others if you're facing any issues. As always, I want to give a massive shout out and thank you to Pancake Tass for her original creation of the Lossless Scaling Linux compatibility layer, which has made all of this possible. A big thank you as well to Kurt Heimborch, aka Jason Derulo, for creating the Lossless Scaling Decky plugin and for incorporating my feedback after extensive testing. Links to both of their GitHubs can be found in the description if you wish to learn more. All the methods shown here today are ready to use, so please dive in, experiment, and share your results. Please stay tuned to the channel for future updates, Decky Store release news, further game tests, and upcoming features. And if you enjoyed this video and learned something new today, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and share with others. You all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later.